Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Miranda and I am the Enchantress of Avalon. So for today's video, I have decided, given that it is Beauty and the Beast theme week on my blog, I would talk about Beauty and the Beast and one of its earliest forms, Eros and Psyche. So, Beauty and the Beast Week is this year's Love Week on White Rose of Avalon. I do a love-themed week every year for Valentine's Day. So for the third year of my blog, I decided I would have a more specific theme. And after a chat on my Discord server, I realized that instead of doing specifically a theme week with romantic fairy tales, my husband suggested a theme week, specifically Beauty and the Beast related, and I loved that, so that is the theme going on over on my blog for those interested in reading more about this. But for today's video, I'm just going to cover Beauty and the Beast and Eros and Psyche and how they overlap. So, Eros and Psyche is an ancient Greek myth that tells the tale of Psyche, who is a young, very beautiful human woman who, in her local area, begins being worshipped because of her beauty. So the locals begin to worship her instead of Aphrodite. And again, you do not disrespect a goddess by comparing yourself to one, because there's bad things that happen. Well, it wasn't necessarily Psyche's fault. She didn't ask to be worshipped, but she was. And it, of course, upset Aphrodite because she's the goddess of love and beauty. She should be worshipped for her beauty, not a human woman. So she sends out her son, Eros, god of love, to work some of his godly magic by shooting Psyche with an arrow of love that would make her fall in love with a monstrous being. But it backfires. He himself is very taken by Psyche's beauty when he sees her, so much so that he's distracted and pricks himself with one of his arrows, falling even deeper under the spell of Psyche's allure. So he decides he would marry her himself. Of course, he doesn't tell his mother this. Why would he? And he goes about this plan to pretend to be this monstrous being she's supposed to marry, because there was this prophecy, and she's brought up to this specific location and left there to be taken by her new husband. And of course, she gets brought to this beautiful palace, and she's informed that she will only see her husband at night when they have their romantic rendezvous, but never during the day, and she's never to gaze upon his visage. But he treats her amazingly. They have this amazing sex life at night, and she lives in this gorgeous palace during the day. And she's very happy in her life. But she does miss her family. So her sisters are brought one day to visit. And they themselves have at this point also been married off, but they're in very unhappy marriages. So they decide to sow some seeds of discontent by saying, how do you know that he is this amazing? He might actually be the monster we all thought he was originally. And so Psyche, having those seeds of disquiet sown that night, takes a candle, and when Eros is sleeping, leans in close with a candle. She's also holding a knife because she wants to defend herself should anything go bad. And she's utterly dumbfounded to see that he's not a monster. He's a god. She's literally married to a god, and she didn't know it. And she's so distracted that some candle wax drips on him, of course, waking him up. And at that point, he feels incredibly betrayed, and he leaves her, especially when he sees the blade in her hand. He realizes she might have just meant to kill him, so he goes. And he goes back to his mother. Aphrodite, who, upon learning this, is even more upset. And Psyche has to then go through all of these trials in order to win back the love of her husband. And these trials are set by Aphrodite, who at this point is well past the idea of being jealous of this woman being worshipped and is more angry that this woman had betrayed her son. So she's setting these tasks as a overprotective mother-in-law, trying to protect her son to see if she's truly worthy of him. And eventually, through many different tasks that she's helped along the way with by different gods, she does win back his love and approval and even becomes immortal herself. Now, how does that relate to the traditional Beauty and the Beast tale? Well, a lot, actually. You have a young woman who is known for being incredibly beautiful. In the original Beauty and the Beast tellings, Beauty did in fact have two sisters that were very similar to Psyche's sisters. They were jealous of her beauty, jealous of the fact that she was idealized above them, and they were incredibly shallow figures in the story of the fairy tale. And in fact, it is them that keeps her longer at their father's home when she comes to check on him. That brief interlude where Beauty, or Belle, is allowed to leave the beast but has to come back within a certain time frame. Her sisters keep her past the time frame in the original telling. So working the same, that sowing seeds of discontent in the marriage in Eros and Psyche, and the trying to keep them apart in Beauty and the Beast. Very much the same. You have a figure, the male figure, who is very powerful in some way. In Beast, he is cursed to be this beast and has a lot of power in that. And in Eros and Psyche, he's literally a god. You have this gorgeous palace where the female protagonist is being taken care of, seemingly magically so, which is, again, direct parallels between the two tales. And the fact that both of the heroines need to undo something they did wrong. In the case of Eros and Psyche, she has to undo doubting her husband's love for her and has to withstand all of these different trials and tribulations to get to her end goal of becoming an immortal to be with her husband forever. And in Beauty and the Beast, Belle has to prove her love for the beast in order to save him from dying, and ultimately also breaking his curse. And my take on where Aphrodite fits into the Beauty and the Beast tale is that Aphrodite's the testing figure in the Eros and Psyche tale. She is testing Psyche to prove that she's worthy of being with Aphrodite's son. And in the Beauty and the Beast tale, there is a fairy woman who comes when the beast's curse is broken and explains what has actually happened, and that it is Beauty's love for him, true love for him, that has allowed this curse to break and saved his life. I feel that that whole all-knowing fairy woman figure is inspired by Aphrodite's role in the original tale, because that fairy woman was also involved in everything that has come to pass, the inciting incidents, etc., as was Aphrodite in the original Eros and Psyche myth. So you have these two different tales that are certainly entwined. Beauty and the Beast, as we know it, has its origins in the 18th century French fairy tales that were vastly popular. And it is a very unique fairy tale. It is a very, very French fairy tale. The Grimm's brothers never even adapted it, where they're collecting all of these fairy tales together they felt it was too French. It was too quintessentially French to be believably in a collection of German fairy tales. So they never included it. So it is a very unique tale, but like every other fairy tale, it has its origins much earlier. And most say that the earliest version is the Eros and Psyche myth. And plot wise, it does line up almost perfectly with the Beauty and the Beast tale, except instead of having this be a story of gods and goddesses, it's a story of a cursed prince and a beautiful young woman who has all of these feminine virtues of being loving, kind, accepting, and most importantly, she has the intelligence and the emotional intelligence to see past the veneer of appearance and into the heart of the beast and fall in love with him anyway. So I do hope you've enjoyed this video analyzing a comparison and contrast between Beauty and the Beast and Eros and Psyche. If you have liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and check out my blog, whiteroseofavalon.life. As I did mention, it is Beauty and the Beast theme week over there, so each day through Valentine's Day, I'm going to be posting Beauty and the Beast related content. So I will link some of the posts that have already come out in the description box below. Have a great day and a very happy Friday. Bye now.